It's the story that demanded to be told for over 20 years. The tale of a boy raised by a political firebrand.
They have no right to try us. They have no right to accuse us of anything.
To become a revolutionary rap artist.
Pop always had to have a fight to fight.
But his call to arms to a forgotten generation brings notoriety.
He's public enemy number one. Dan Quayle, the Vice President of the United States, is going out against him.
What they trying to do me?
Following Tupac Shakur's murder at the age of just 25, his life is made into the movie All Eyes on Me. But the film tells just half the story.
It's not my liking for guns.
The guns and the bravura hide a sensitive genius with a love of Shakespeare.
He just had this energy, this magnetism.
Is this a dagger which I see before me?
I had big plans for him.
A young man who becomes trapped in a role.
I didn't expect that level of vulnerability that he gave.
A role that he plays so well, it costs him his life. This is the real story of All Eyes on Me. Spring 1996. Tupac Shakur is at the height of his powers.
He's a movie star. He's a sex symbol. He's the biggest rap star. We had all eyes on him, literally.
I just thought he was super intelligent. He gave a voice to what you weren't seeing in the media, to where he could vocalize some of the injustices that were happening inside the Black community.
His latest album, All Eyes on Me, has sold 9 million copies. His biggest record to date.
Cut that. Let's go again.
5, take 2.
This video, promoting a track from the album, sees Tupac staging his own death. It's evidence of a growing obsession with his own mortality.
When he started talking about death in his records, I was like, whoa, like, what's all this talk about? He was obsessed with his demise.
1 month later, Tupac Shakur is dead, killed in a drive-by shooting. The gangster rap revolutionary was just 25. Given his upbringing, his end seems inevitable. Harlem, New York City, 1982. For the first 11 years of his life, Tupac Shakur is steeped in the family tradition of revolution and social injustice.
His mom is essentially Black Panther royalty. And I think it's a really powerful thing that really kind of sets him on the path.
Hey, son, you okay?
Since its 1966 start in California, the Black Panther Party's belief is that only through armed struggle can black people be free from white oppression. Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, is a senior figure in the party. In 1969, she is accused of plotting a series of bombings across New York.
I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything to commit any crimes against the people. And if the people want to put me on trial, I say right on to that.
She defends herself at her trial, very famously. I mean, it's really incredible to really consider that, to be a black woman with no law degree, defending herself, facing life imprisonment for this huge plot to blow up different landmarks around New York City, and she gets acquitted.
They have no right to try us. They have no right to accuse us of anything.
At the time, she is 8 months pregnant with Tupac.
His original born name was Lassane Parish Crooks. After about 1 year old, his mom changes the name to Tupac Amaru Shakur.
Tupac Amaru was an Incan warrior famed for leading a rebellion against the Spanish in the 18th century.
From the very onset, Tupac is born to kind of be this resistance fighter, kind of this hero of the oppressed underclass.
Tupac's mother is his whole life. He doesn't know his father. And his stepfather, Mutulu Shakur, a member of the Black Liberation Army, has been on the run for 3 years, accused of masterminding an attempted bullion robbery.
he doesn't really have like a strong father figure like that. Afeni's forced to play both roles, and obviously her political beliefs definitely seep into Tupac very dramatically.
But the young Tupac clearly isn't physically cut out for violent struggle. He's small, a far cry from the sporting heroes beloved by the kids in his neighborhood.
Tupac obviously is growing up in the 80s, and you have like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Jerry Rice, like all these like famous athletes, and Tupac just isn't one.
But Tupac still draws attention. His soft features and love of acting make him a target.
He obviously had an artistic temperament from the onset, and his mother cultivated it, and he's obviously in this kind of, you know, culturally fertile kind of ground.
If Tupac hopes that acting will offer him and his family an escape, it's a long shot. As the son of a Black Panther, the cards are stacked against him. Rapper Money B recalls his time at the community school in Oakland, California, run by the Panthers.
We were always under surveillance. You would always see helicopters flying over the school. You know, we were just used to it, being raised to know that the police weren't necessarily our friends.
His mother, Afeni, believes she is also a victim of her past. She insists that her history with the Black Panthers is the reason she can never hold down a job. Cheap and plentiful drugs offer a temporary fix.
His mother was acquitted of all these charges, so it's this real environment of kind of the system is out to get Tupac and his family.
Madam, I got a notice that you need to pay the rent. Do you have the money?
What am I gonna do?
That's what it says on the document.
This is still the FBI of J. Edgar Hoover, and that can't be underestimated.
This is the 18th time they've been forced to move.
It's a really traumatic childhood for him. The harassment by the FBI incubated a sense of paranoia in Tupac.
I need you to get your belongings, get your bag, get your books, get your stuff, get everything you can, okay? Gotta go.
He moves to Baltimore by the mid-'80s, and that's sort of where I think his like artistic awakening kind of like becomes into full blossom. You kind of see the germination of the artist that we now know as Tupac Shakur of today.
1986. It's Tupac's first day at the prestigious Baltimore School of Arts. He makes an instant impression.
We have a new student in our midst.
Hi guys, I'm Tupac Shakur.
He said his name, Tupac Shakur, and it got a little snicker. You know, there was a bit of laughter. And he stood up and he launched into this quick, concise explanation of who Tupac Amaru was.
He fought against the oppressors. My moms gave me that name. So y'all laughing at me, it's like laughing at my moms. I wouldn't laugh at your moms.
And why he would tolerate absolutely no one making fun of his name. It was amazing. I mean, I'd never seen a kid kind of approach a situation like that. The other kids learned early that he was a person worthy of respect.
Tupac quickly makes friends.
He just had this energy, this magnetism that made peers want to know him and want to be in his presence. And I think it inspired his teachers to push him.
When it was his turn, they sat a little more forward in their seats because they knew they were going to see something special. He always brought something remarkable to the work.
But when Tupac is introduced to Shakespeare, he truly comes alive.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand?
He loved Shakespeare. He really connected with Shakespeare.
Oh, thou but a dagger of the mind.
Shakespeare awakens in him the potential power in words, delivered with rhythm.
He was always rapping. In those days, rap was this sort of new frontier.
Never be beat, never be beat.
With Tupac, you could say, okay, here's a subject. Rap about it.
Don't make sense to come against me and my man D.
It was just a steady flow of creative imagination. He took all of the experience that he had as a child, and everything ultimately had to find its way into words on a page.
Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still.
Later, Tupac will claim his time at BSA is the freest he's ever felt.
There's no such thing.
He doesn't need to act tough. He can be himself.
He had landed in exactly the right place at exactly the right time.
I had big plans for him for his senior year. He was going to do leads in a couple of shows, you know.
We knew he was going to make it. There was just no other choice.
I always knew that I could.
But this golden period is about to come to a shuddering end. For the first time, Tupac Shakur's acting guru, Donald Hicken, reveals the real story of how it happened. Hicken will never forget the day in 1988 Tupac told him he was leaving the Baltimore School of Arts.
Tears are in his eyes because he doesn't want to leave. He was having the time of his life. You know, he had really found his place.
Let's go home.
Tupac is moving to California with his mother in an attempt to get her clean.
I said, look, we'll find you a host family. We'll do whatever it takes to keep you here so you don't have to go to Oakland with your mom. You can stay here and finish up and then go to Oakland, you know, just one more year.
But Tupac feels he has to put his mother first.
He made it clear to me early on that he didn't have a choice.
What do you mean you gotta go with her? Let's go with her. No, you don't. I can't leave her here.
He needed to be there for his sister. He needed to be there for his mom, that family came first, and that he had to leave.
I can't be feeling all emotional like this. I gotta be strong, you know?
To give that up took tremendous courage, tremendous resolve. And I had to respect his decision.
Tupac's life is about to change dramatically, but Shakespeare will never leave him. Far from escaping drugs, Tupac discovers in California his mother is even more at risk.
Crack is the most terrible scourge to kind of probably hit America in the latter half of the 20th century, apart from AIDS.
His mother succumbs to the crack epidemic.
With Afeni, she gets really terribly hooked. To see your mom kind of reduced and strung out, it really shakes him to his core. He saw the dark side really quickly.
He never spoke negatively about her. You could tell that he was real close to his mom and that she was like his best friend, and he wishes that he had his best friend back.
But despite the perils, Tupac can't resist the power of drugs.
How could you not deal when you're in that environment? I think it's just a natural thing where it's like, you know, you see the ballers, you see the guys driving fancy cars and getting all the women. Like, by nature, you know, those are the kingpins of your neighborhood.
Tupac starts to flirt with the gangster culture he had fought to avoid. But soon, his love of performance saves him. new friends, he gets a break with Oakland hip-hop act Digital Underground. Money B was a rapper in the group.
Digital Underground was his first platform. And so once he got it, he ran with it. In our circle, he's probably the most politically driven.
He had words that he wanted to share, and he was gonna find a way to share those words.
1990, Tupac's time with funky hip-hop act Digital Underground is over. At just 19, it's time to do what his Black Panther mother had told him he was born to do. Spread the word.
Black people feel like sometimes they're in a hole. I think they feel invisible. Unless someone like a Tupac brings it to your conscious.
He was speaking for the people that were like him, that didn't have a voice. He really was like, I'm gonna tell y'all how it really is for us.
Tupac finds inspiration in the everyday tragedies around him.
There was an article in the New York Times about a young girl who put her baby in the trash. They found it, and it was an epidemic of young girls having kids, fatherless.
The 12-year-old girl had got pregnant by her cousin.
Now, that felt powerful. I hadn't heard anybody tell a story like that before.
His debut single, Brenda's Got a Baby, will endear him to a legion of female fans. And within the world of rap, he's become a hot property.
I think really Tupac's power kind of comes from the narrative storytelling. He's an orator.
Tupac starts attracting offers from the wrong kind of people, like the founder of Death Row Records, Suge Knight. Suge has a reputation. He moves in criminal circles, and his new label glorifies the violence of gangster life. Tupac turns him down, but political events are about to give his voice an added potency. March 3rd, 1991. Many in Los Angeles' black community express outrage in the wake of the brutal beating of Rodney King by LAPD officers.
That was the beginning of proof of what we were telling people was really actually happening.
Tupac releases a single, Trapped, addressing police brutality against young blacks head on. And he's about to get a taste for himself. Oakland, California, October 17th, 1991. Tupac stopped by police for jaywalking.
Show me your ID, and it said Tupac Shakur, and they were like, tell me your real name.
He said his name, they laughed. I remembered back to my experience with him when he was first at PSA. I thought, oh boy, you don't laugh at his name.
Tupac reacts with indignation to the perceived disrespect and demands his jaywalking citation.
He told me, well, then they roughed me up, because I got belligerent.
The beating is so severe, Tupac loses consciousness.
It was sort of loss of innocence in a way, because he now had experienced it firsthand.
Tupac successfully sues the Oakland PD. But the attack pushes Tupac towards the kind of violence he had always avoided.
It was a major turning point in his life, and he kind of implied that he wasn't ever going to let it happen again.
Tupac's first album has gone gold. He's now a significant rap voice, with a burning message of social injustice.
He believed that he was put on this earth to be a warrior. Pac always had to have a fight to fight.
he launches an urban social reform movement aimed at improving the lives of young black men. He calls it Thug Life.
The fact that he had it tattooed on him suggests to me that he adopted the role of warrior and that his weapon was going to be his pen, but if necessary, it was going to be his fists.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
For Tupac, thug life means fighting for the underdog, those that have nothing and have been dismissed by society as thugs.
Now his contemporaries are trying to tell you what it's like trying to raise children in the hood. You know, now I got a baby and I got a wife or a baby mama that I gotta feed and I can't get a job, so now I gotta go out and rob somebody or sell some dope to feed them. Woo!
To be taken seriously, Tupac believes he needs to live just like the people he writes about. Tupac is in the firing line. In April 1992, a Texas state trooper was shot dead.
The person who shoots him blames it on Tupacalypse Now. He was playing it so loud that it made him kill the cop, which was a ridiculous and bogus thing that really kickstarts the whole problem.
They are making money off a record that is suggesting it's okay to kill cops, and that is wrong.
Say what? What does he know?
This is how they trying to do me. This is what I be talking about.
He's public enemy number one. Dan Quayle, the Vice President of the United States, is going out against him.
Quayle is demanding Tupac's album is taken off the shelves. Just like his mother 20 years earlier, he has become a target for the authorities.
I was concerned for his safety. This world was getting to be a very dangerous place.
In February 1993, Tupac's second album is released. His angry persona is a hit with the public. Within months, the album goes platinum. Out of the blue, Tupac shows up at the Baltimore School of Arts. His former teacher immediately realizes his thug persona is a facade.
I see him look up and see me. The stern, tough guy look evaporates, the amazing smile.
Hicken suspects that his former student is in danger of becoming trapped in a role.
I said, it strikes me that, you're having to exhibit dangerous behavior in order to be authentic. He made the point that if you're considered fake, no one's going to buy your stuff, no one's going to listen to you. I don't think Tupac saw himself as a guerrilla fighter. I think he saw himself as a guerrilla writer. I think he wanted to be the voice of the revolution.
I'm not like that. I gotta protect yourself.
My feeling was always that if he maintained his role as a writer-performer,
just be yourself, be the writer that you are.
That would be his most effective role to play. The fact that he kept trying to extend it into being also armed and dangerous, that's where I felt he was in alien territory, that was not in his nature.
I gotta be strong, I can't be weak.
I asked him how many weapons were in the room, and he said, I didn't want to know. You're worth as much to these people who are running your career dead as you are alive. I mean, they don't care.
You don't know my word. Why are you talking like that?
Carrying a gun, on one hand, could be seen as a requirement, but on the other side it's definitely a provocation. It's saying, I'm ready if you're ready. That's as close as I ever got to kind of confronting him.
That's true, man. This is my teacher.
About the road I thought he was on and how crazy I thought it was.
Despite the warning, Tupac's unable to stop the gangster juggernaut. Atlanta, Georgia, October 31st, 1993. Tupac is fresh from a show. The violence pervading his music is about to become a horrible reality.
He saw two white guys beating up or, taking advantage of a black person. And did what 99% of us wouldn't do. Hey, leave him alone. All of a sudden, they pull out on him.
Tupac wounds both men. They are later identified as off-duty cops.
That is a radical act. At the height of his fame, shoots a police officer.
Tupac is later arrested at his hotel. He is charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault. Tupac claims he was acting in self-defense. When prosecutors drop the charges, he becomes a legend in the black community.
He's like fucking Paul Bunyan at that point, like, in the South, no less, and I think that really only leads to him kind of burnishing his mythology.
Tupac's creating something bigger than he could have imagined.
Mr. Shakur, can we get a comment from you at all?
Thug life.
Pardon me?
Thug life. Thug life. That's my comment.
What's that mean? I don't understand.
But who's in control? The artist or his creation? At 22 years old, Tupac is able to provide for his family.
He's pretty much defeating a Feeney at the time, he's supporting his sister at the time, and he had an expensive lifestyle,
He's fulfilling his mother's dream. He's become a beacon for young black men everywhere. But the responsibility brings intense pressure.
I'm sure that has to get to anybody when you start to realize you have a generation of people on your shoulders, you're carrying them.
Like his mother, Tupac finds escape through drugs. For him, it's alcohol and marijuana.
He was volatile. If he didn't have weed at the top of the morning like coffee, he wasn't right.
Tupac's status within the black community has made him new friends, including rapper Biggie Smalls.
Biggie was a fan. I think everyone was a fan of Tupac. Biggie was a drug dealer. Biggie was more in the street than Tupac, even though he grew up in a more middle-class environment.
In preparation for a film role, Tupac's also hanging out with Haitian Jack Agnant, a bona fide gangster with a violent reputation.
He starts hanging out with Haitian Jack, who's kind of just an infamous underworld kingpin of New York. And they warned him, they're like, you shouldn't be hanging out with those people. And I think there was a code that Tupac really gets caught up in. Tupac was living theatrically. These men weren't. These men were really gangsters.
Tupac's commitment to playing his thug character will lead to the most disastrous event in his life. New York City, November 18th, 1993. Ayanna Jackson has been invited to Tupac's hotel room. Tupac first met the 19-year-old 4 days ago in a club and spent the night with her.
Everywhere he went, it was like bees to honey. He never had an issue with women.
Jackson says soon after entering Tupac's bedroom, they have visitors.
Most people assumed that she was expecting to just see Tupac, and there were, Haitian Jack and another person there.
Jackson claimed the men, including Tupac, rape her. It's a version of events Tupac strongly disputes. He insists when the men entered the room, he left.
Whether Tupac did or didn't do it, I think it's inexcusable. I mean, Tupac should have protected her. The scandal's probably the darkest moment of his career, really. I mean, it's the one thing that's very difficult to reconcile.
Tupac's charged with sodomy and sexual assault. With his mother such a hero in his life, the allegation he'd violated a woman crushes him.
My whole life has been turned around. I lost every job, I lost everything, every opportunity. I can't get buy cars, can't get rent, can't get none of that.
He just adamantly denied any of that. Like, that was not him. He did not do that to her. But he felt like he was being set up.
When Tupac discovers the case against Haitian Jack Agnand has been separated from his, he becomes suspicious.
I'm charged with being in concert with some guys. Well, where they at? Why me? Because I'm Tupac. No, I'm not angry at them. I'm angry at the system.
Rumors are that Haitian Jack is a government informant. Tupac tells a journalist that he thinks he has set him up.
Tupac is going around and talking to gossip columnists. You know, gangsters are supposed to move in silence. And he's talking to the media. And that's not something that, like, most people look kindly upon, especially gangsters.
New York City, November 30th, 1994. Since the rape charge, Tupac has had a series of concerts cancelled. Financially strapped, he's agreed to rap on a record for a friend of Biggie Smalls.
Tupac desperately needed money, and he gets a phone call to record a song with Little Sean.
Wrong as shit, bro. Should've called him and made some music.
Gunmen demand money and jewelry. With wounds to his groin, hand, and head, Tupac is lucky to be alive. Police believe it's a robbery gone wrong, but others say it's a warning for shooting his mouth off.
So we'll never really know what happened.
Next day, Tupac's rape trial ends with a conviction for sexual abuse. He has a year to appeal, but his record company fails to pay the bail that will grant him freedom until the hearing. He goes to jail immediately.
You know, hot-headed revolutionary that may have sexually assaulted a woman, or at the very least would be culpable of a conspiracy to do so, is not the kind of person that, like, if you're a major corporation, you want to take a risk on.
In February 1995, he's transferred to Clinton Correctional Facility in New York State, having been sentenced to a maximum of 4.5 years. Abandoned, feeling he is no longer able to trust anyone, Tupac receives a letter from a young model, Angela Ardis.
I reached out to him. It was a bet. It was a bet at my job, and one of my coworkers said, if you could have a roughneck, who would you want? I said Tupac.
For the past 3 months, the pair have been corresponding. Tupac's letters and poems reveal a personality far removed from his thug act.
I made a comment about not having received the poem in their last letter, and he said, it's not a lack of substance. Sometimes I get depressed. It's amazing how, with how he was being portrayed, you would have never thought that was in there. It kind of took me back a little bit. I didn't expect that level of vulnerability that he gave.
Now clean of drugs, Tupac says he's renouncing thug life and is looking to the future.
He was working on some scripts while he was in there. He was writing music for some of his friends. He wanted to open up a youth center.
I'm feeling good about the future.
This compassionate man who had written me these letters was exactly who I met. So I never met Tupac the rapper. I only met Tupac the man.
To achieve his dreams, Tupac needs to secure his release. After 8 months in jail, he's thrown a lifeline. Someone has agreed to put up the bail money. Suge Knight, the president of Death Row Records, the home of gangsta rap that has taken the music charts by storm. He needs someone to replace the label's biggest artist, Dr. Dre.
How are you, man?
He sees in Tupac really kind of a moneymaker that's gonna, save the label. Because I mean, Dre was everything for Death Row. Suge saw like Tupac, this like meal ticket and this brilliant artist and this genius.
Suge believes with Tupac, Death Row can become the biggest record label in the world. And he knows he has Tupac where he wants him.
Well, I want to get out, make music, party, do my thing,
He'll put up the $1.4 million bail to secure his release if Tupac signs a 3-record deal. But freedom comes at a price.
That's like 4 or 5 years, man.
Just as Tupac can see the light, Suge drags him even deeper into the gangster life.
You gonna take care of me?
And gave Tupac carte blanche to really indulge in his, his most wild and like rebellious like fantasies. Became like a mob figure.
Fuck it, baby. That's basic history. That's what.
Within months, Tupac Shakur will be dead. The real story is just how tantalizingly close he comes to survival. Fresh from prison, Tupac Shakur is prolific for his new master at Death Row, Suge Knight. He's selling more records than ever, but at a cost.
There was obviously a gang culture associated with Death Row. So once you're in that, you are living in that culture. So it'll start to show up in your music and the things that you talk about.
Under Suge's management, gone are the lyrics of social injustice in favor of the label's trademark gangster message.
The songs are not very political. The later songs become obsessed with violence. They become obsessed with revenge, retribution, paranoia.
But there are signs Tupac's life is changing for the better. Los Angeles, 1996. Tupac is in love. His new girlfriend is Kadada Jones, daughter of legendary record producer Quincy Jones. It's been a whirlwind romance, but already the couple are starting to talk about babies.
Girl, how long you gonna take? Been like 10, 20 minutes? What you trying to do?
Babe, I gotta make sure I look right for my man, okay?
You look right for your man. You always look right for your man.
Do you like it?
It appears Tupac is finally becoming the black role model his mother can be proud of.
He wanted to protect everybody. Everything he cared about, he tried to protect it.
He's not only inspiring kids, he's helping them practically.
He really wants to start this like revolutionary movement and organizations that get kids off the streets and broker gang treaties.
But he can't shake the fear that his past will catch up with him.
Tupac is very clearly haunted by his own mortality. I think it becomes an ever-present theme.
Tupac wants out of Death Row Records.
I think he was looking beyond his gangster lifestyle.
But Suge Knight tells him he can only leave when he's paid off his debts. Debts that include the bail money for his sexual abuse appeal and the cost of producing 3 albums.
I don't think he could have walked away from it without scrapping his whole career. He was too valuable. They needed him in the studio.
Eventually, he just kind of got caught up in the in the thug life, you know, in Suge Knight and Death Row, and kind of these kind of malevolent waters that are just swirling around him.
On the evening of September 7th, 1996, Tupac gets involved in an altercation with a member of the Crips street gang in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. A few hours later, Tupac is the victim of a drive-by shooting. And this time, the injuries are life-threatening.
It was devastating. He was so gifted and so smart and such a beautiful soul.
His mother, Afeni, holds a bedside vigil. But the real story reveals just how close he was to escaping thug life.
He was on his way back to see me when he stopped in Vegas and never made it out of Vegas. That he was coming back. He was coming back east.
Tupac had decided to ditch his thug act. He wanted to rekindle his love for Shakespeare with his former acting guru.
He was on his way back to talk to me about working on Lear with him, and I was suggesting to him that the fool could be rapped.
But at 4:04 p.m. on September 13th, 1996, Tupac dies.
When I heard that he had passed, I cried, we cried. I thought, you know, what a terrible loss, what a waste.
Someone who really thought that they could change the world. And I believe that had he been around, he probably would have.
There's a genuine gift gone down. It's a big loss.
I know that that was a man who walked this earth, who lived true, who had dignity, who had courage, and who had ethics, and who stood for what he believed in.
He was a sensitive soul who wanted to help kids like him. He discovered the best way to do that was to enter a world of thugs and machismo. In the end, he was too good an actor. He played the role too well and paid the price. Someone, somewhere, saw him as a threat that needed to be eradicated. Whether the shooting was a result of a feud between Death Row and Bad Boy Records, or a revenge attack by the Crips. After more than 20 years, the identity of Tupac's killer remains unknown.